What's going on, guys? Dropadooski here. Today we're going to be doing our day one T13's guide for the Crusader for season 13. Now I want to start off with this right off the bat, saying that this was probably the most difficult one I've done so far. Invoker is not historically known for speed farming or farming higher torments, but since this is the Hedrig's gift, we went ahead and figured out something that will work. I want to do a big shout out to Endlessly from Community. He's been a long time Crusader player and he helped me work on this build yesterday. So thank you, dude. Fist pounds. We're going to jump right over into the gear and start talking about how we actually keep this thing alive in T13, because that does seem to be the biggest issue right now. Even though it's a Thorns build, in a lot of instances you get overwhelmed with it as things aren't dying as fast as they would for, say, Condemn or another build that has very burst-like abilities, as this is all designed around Thorns. So you are getting the Invoker set for free with the Hedrig's gift. Now, the Invoker set, the attack speed of Punish and Slash are increased by 50% and deal 5,400% of your Thorns damage to the first enemy hit. This is really good for hunting down and killing packs. So the strategy you're going to take with this early on in the season is just looking for packs and kind of using those packs to proc Ingeom and continue just using your steed to fly through the rift, find more packs, and blow them up. So you get the 6-piece Invoker set. Luckily, Invoker pieces always roll with Thorns, so you're going to be getting a whole chunk of Thorns right off the bat. Even without the Paragons and without looking for super optimized gear, you're going to get a decent amount of Thorns right away. So with the 6-piece set, the next item that I would be rolling with this right away is the Pig Sticker. Now, the Pig Sticker seems to be the best item you can use for this setup for two reasons. One is when you're rolling yellow daggers in the cube, there's only really 2 daggers that you can get on the Crusader, so you have a really high chance of getting a Pig Sticker right away. Now, the benefits of the Pig Sticker are they give you tons and tons of attack speed, which is what you need for this Thorns build, and you can get life per hit there, which is going to give you some sustainability while you're fighting enemies or elites while you're going through the Greater Rift. So I would immediately be going for a Pig Sticker right after I get my 6-piece. Now, you need 2 chests for this to work, 2 different chest pieces. So in my cube, I have the Heart of Iron, which gains Thorns equal to 300% of your vitality, so giving you even more Thorns. And then I have an Aquila, as you're always using a generator. A generator is your primary output, so you almost always have Aquila up, which is giving you a 50% damage reduction as you're running through the Grift. So what I would be doing right after I get my Pig Sticker is rolling chests from Kadala and also maybe upgrading chests, either prioritizing upgrading some chests, or I would immediately start upgrading belts, because Belt of the Trove is something that you're going to be using for this build as well. Now, you'll see that I do not have Bombardment on my bar. You don't actually have to have it on your bar when you're using Belt of the Trove. Every 8 seconds, call down a bombardment on a random nearby enemy. This is a poorly rolled one. You can get a 6-second one, so ideally you're going to be going for 6 seconds, but honestly, this belt is kind of difficult to get, so just take whichever one you can get, and it's going to give you a form of CC while you're running around. It's going to be hitting enemies, knocking them around, helping with that survivability as you go through. So once you have your chests, your belt, and your Pig Sticker, you're going to need an Ingeom. Now, you don't necessarily have to have an Ingeom. It is a quality of life thing to enable you to get around a lot faster, and also continuously use Iron Skin and Provoke, which also increase and help with your Thorns output. If you don't get an Ingeom, and say for instance you get a Blood Brother or something along those lines, go ahead and toss that in the cube. Grants 20% chance to block attacks. Blocked attacks inflict 30% less damage. After blocking an attack, your next attack inflicts 30% additional damage. This is a really good survivability weapon, so you can go with Blood Brother here, but I would say Ingeom is what we're really going to want, and you're going to need Ingeom later for the Akan Sage build or any of those. So Ingeom's always good to go for early on, no matter what setup you've got, but for this one specifically, Ingeom is going to be very helpful when you're going through. So once you have those things covered, you're basically going to be going for a shield. Now early on you can use any shield that you get that's rolled well, but I would recommend going with this Votoya's Spiker. This enemies affected by provoke take double damage from thorns. That's going to be really helpful when you're going through the T13 rifts, as what I typically do is I roll in and I save my provoke and Iron Skin, and right when I get to the pack I hit those right on the pack, and then I immediately start auto attacking. And I will demonstrate this when I go into a rift here shortly. That's going to double that thorns damage output right when you get to the pack and blow it up that much faster. For the jewelry slots here, honestly, whatever you get that's best rolled for amulet you can take. Now I would recommend taking any immunity amulet that you can. You know, at any point in any of these early farming setups, you're going to want as much survivability as possible. I've talked about this in my other day one T13's. Typically you have the damage to get through the content, but staying alive is the issue when you don't have very many paragons in. So if you can get any immunity amulet and you just happen to get one while you're leveling, or once you get level 70, then I would just use that until you get an icon, you know, all your icon stuff, and you move on from there. Rings, I think the Justice Lantern is kind of required for this early T13 build. Gain damage reduction equal to 50% of your block chance. It's very useful early on, and it's just a good ring overall for the Crusader. If you don't get one, you can get away with using just nicely rolled rings, as all three of the rings that I'm using, the one in the cube and the two that I'm wearing, are not specifically designed around this set. They're just quality of life things. So I've got a Justice Lantern here. I would say if you get one, you should use it. It's going to be really helpful. Stone of Jordan is another one as we're hunting down elite packs. Of course, Stone of Jordans can roll an elemental. You're going to want physical here and physical on your bracers, and ideally physical on your amulet if you can. Physical is the output of thorns, so physical anywhere you can get it is going to be helpful with this thing. And then for this, I have my Convention of the Elements in the cube. You don't need that. It's kind of just a nice thing when physical rolls around. Whatever you are attacking kind of just explodes. So it's a nice thing to have, but if you don't have one, you know, take whatever you can. Now, as you can see here, I do not have Nemesis bracers on this current setup. Nemesis is the, you know, you're really going to want a Nemesis bracer early on for getting more Death's Breath, but it is something that you're only going to be able to utilize if you have a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Now, if you do have a Ring of Royal Grandeur, I would definitely throw that in the cube instead of the Convention of the Elements, and then wear some Nemesis bracers here, as there is no other slot for the Thorns setup. You have to have the bracers, so without the Ring of Royal Grandeur, you cannot wear Nemesis bracers. So if you get a Rogue early and you get lucky with that RNG, then take the Nemesis bracers. It'll give you extra packs. If not, once you get beyond using the Invoker set for your speeds, then you'll be using Nemesis, but early on you won't be able to unless you have that Rogue. I'm pretty sure that's everything. Let's jump into the abilities and kind of talk about how this build plays. So we're using Punish as our main attack here. When you block with Hardened Senses active, you gain 15% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. This whole thing is designed around attacking as fast as possible, because you're applying those thorns every time you attack. So this is a really good ability to use for this. Laws of Valor Invincible. Now this is going to be increasing your attack speed once again and giving you life per hit, which is giving you more sustain when you're in groups of enemies, and you're going to try to avoid being in those groups of enemies, because that's how you die on this character. You get overwhelmed by too many things around you and it'll kill you. Provoke, hit me, gain 50% increased block chance for 4 seconds. This is coupled with your shield, so you're going to need Provoke there, and this one will give you more survivability. It also taunts everything into you. Steed Endurance. Now most of these will use the Spiked Barding, which gives you Thorns damage while you're cruising around on your horse. I actually prefer taking Endurance with this early setup, as it just gives me more time in the pony mode so that I can get to packs faster, but you can go either way with this. Iron Skin, Reflective Skin. While active, your Thorns is increased by 300%. This is a huge burst of damage. So when you get into that situation where you're blowing up a pack, pop Iron Skin, it should immediately die. And then Akarat's Champion Rally. You can also take the survivability one here, the Prophet or something else. I like Rally because it reduces the cooldowns of all your other abilities by 12 seconds right when you use it. So if you go into a fight and you happen to be in a situation where something doesn't die or there's multiple packs, you can hit Akarat's, you get that survivability buff, and then it should refresh the cooldowns on Iron Skin or Provoke to get you really close, and then you can burst those down again. So my passives: Fervor, while wielding a one-handed, your attack speed is increased by 15%, and all your cooldowns are reduced by 15%. Another attack speed cooldown setup. Iron Maiden, standard for Thorns, your Thorns is increased by 50%. Indestructible, you need that proc as you're really squishy early on. And then Fanaticism, increase the attack speed of Punish and Slash and Smite and Justice by 15%. Once again, another attack speed bonus. Now this is the flex spot here. I would say you could also go like Vigilant or some other passive to give you a little more survivability or strength. You could take Finery here because you'll get all that strength for the gems. But after testing, this is the one that I've had the best luck with. So that's all the abilities. Let's talk about the gems quickly. This is one of the builds, probably the only one that I'll have that doesn't use Gold Wrap, Boon, and the Hoarder. It's just not as effective. You're not killing things fast enough to get enough golds to actually make that useful early on in the season. So I will say that with this one, I prefer taking Gogok of Swiftness. That, once again, cooldown, attack speed, then you get dodge chance as well. So it's just really, really helpful for this setup. Bane of the Trapped, that's rank 25, and all of these are rank 25 as I do that to keep it realistic for early season. And then I have the Boryetsky's Chip. This is the Thorns gem, and I have that at 25 as well, giving you 36,000. So for this setup, I normally do it with 0 Paragons in. I actually did put in a little bit. So as you can see on my movement speed, I have cooldown here, I have resist all, and then I have life per hit. So that's 200, right? 200 Paragons, which is where you'd be basically right around when you got your all the gear set up for this. But that being said, everyone I spoke to from last season, and myself included, Akon's was the hardest set to get. So it's very realistic, especially for you solo self-found league players out there that are going to be in Leviathan's thing, that you will be on Invoker for a little while. So it's not unrealistic for you to not have everything ready to go for Akon's at 200 Paragons. So I do think that this is very representative of what the early season is going to be like. Let's jump into a Rift real quick, and I'll show you a couple of pulls just so we can demonstrate this, and then we'll wrap up the video. So if you once you go in, and remember, you don't want to get overwhelmed, right? You don't want to get too far into mobs, because if you get too many around you, you're going to get in trouble. So if you get in and Provoke, you're going to have those bombardments dropping. You can blow things up really, really fast. The enemies that I will mention that I've had the most trouble with this is ranged enemies. So goats, poison bugs, all of those things have been really, really rough. And we're not going to get a lot of packs here, obviously, because we got to do that event. Damn it, I didn't expect to get a cow rift for the the video. But we'll go in here and demonstrate this. And this will be a good example of what it's like when you're starting to get overwhelmed, as we should get a lot of cows. But as you can see, you go in and you just auto attack and things die. It's very, very good for that burst damage on a single target. The problem with these Thorns builds is they're very single target oriented, right? So when you start getting a lot of stuff around you, it gets really, really dangerous. But that's why one of the things that I've been gearing around with this setup is that life per hit, right? As long as you're auto attacking, you should have enough life per hit to stay alive and keep yourself moving through the rift. And as long as you're juggling these cooldowns, your Iron Skin, your Provoke, your Laws here, you should be okay. That being said, early on it was very frustrating. I was dying when I was trying to set it up in different setups, and this is finally the one that I came to. And now we're at a point where I think it'll work pretty well for T13. And that's that's the goal of this, right? To get us into that content as fast as possible. It's not a super fast build. It's not going to be with anything Thorns related. I mean, like the Thorns bar was the same way. You're very much, you know, restricted by the amount of enemies that you can hit. Of course, everything that's hitting you, since you are designed around Thorns, and you see now I have that NG on proc, so I can get in there and kind of go ham. But you got to be real careful and make sure you utilize your horse, right? Your horse will get you out of the shitty situations. If there's lasers or things haven't died fast enough, you're going to just mount up and get out of there as quickly as possible. Then once that NGM is rolling, you just permanently use the horse to get through. You can get through enemies, find yourself a pack, and then hopefully blow it up really quickly and continue forward. You see, it's not, the packs themselves die really, really fast. And I think this is enough right here just to show how this works. So let me kill stuff so I can get back to town, and then we'll wrap this up. This is probably, even though it's not the most useful of the sets, you know, you kind of got to use what you get. I've always loved Thorns builds, so I was really excited to work on this, and I think it's going to be really fun for people that are playing those solo self-found leagues to start out with the Invoker set. Many of you guys haven't messed with Thorns, and it'll be really cool to see what that's like. One other thing quickly I'll mention, yellow gem in the weapon. Those of you that are not familiar with Thorn setups, it's almost always a green gem in a weapon for any kind of damage output, not for Thorns. So you get 38,000 Thorns for the yellow gem in your weapon. So remember, when you're putting the gem in your weapon, to use a yellow gem. Everybody, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really hope that you guys enjoy the Crusader in the next season. Crusader is one of the strongest builds by far in the game right now, and I'm going to be playing a Crusader. I think I may do Lazy Shotgun, which is a Disco Bears build, and I will hopefully put something up about that later on. Everybody, thank you so much. If you have any questions or comments, throw them below, and don't forget, I stream Monday through Saturday starting at noon MST on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Dropadooski. Come by anytime. If you got any questions, hit me up. And good luck in the Grifts, guys. Season 13, Friday at 5 p.m. PST. Peace.